Hey guys, it's Scott from FXMissions.com. Just a note, I've finished the trilogy of anthologies from the forefront, and all 3 books are currently available on Amazon.
Welcome to From the Forefront, an FX Missions podcast with your host, Scott McClelland. Far and wide, and sometimes here at home, these bold and courageous souls that answer the call to missions have a steely metal that insists pioneering be part of their daily routine. Let's gather today and learn from those on the forefront. Here's Scott.
Hi, Scott McClelland here with your FX Missions From the Forefront podcast. Thanks for being with us today. We're excited today to be joined by a couple of guys. One I've known quite some time. You've heard on the podcast before in all likelihood, and then a new friend as well. So we'll start with the new friend, Zack Loving. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have a common friend in Billy Bohannon. Can I get a report in there?
Hola,
Captain?
todos. Billy is here.
It's funny you're using Spanish because we're talking to Zack. Where are you at today, Zack?
Thailand, just in the southern part of Thailand.
I love Thailand. I'm just feeling the humidity with you right now.
I'm sweating as I sit here, actually.
Yeah, I can well imagine you are. It's humid all over Thailand, but especially down that way. Where are you guys at specifically? I only know a few areas in the south.
Yeah, we live and work in Chiang Mai, which actually is in the northern part of the country. But this week we've got a staff retreat going on down here on the coast in the southern part of the country. In Hua Hin is the more well-known area right here, Hua Hin Beach. And so, Free Burma Rangers has access to a retreat center down here. And so it just worked out during all of this virus shutdown, which is going on here in Thailand as well, for us to be down here and still be able to work some and then just have a good place to be together and still hang out and avoid the virus. So God blessed us in that way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. While we're recording here, the COVID-19 stuff is starting to show some indications of lifting, but we're working a little bit of a backlog on the recording. It'll be a little later when it comes out, and everybody will say, "Oh yeah, I remember that."
Yeah,
no way anyone's going to forget. Yeah. So tell us a little bit, Zack. You're involved in the missions effort. You have been for some time, as I understand. What is your role? What do you do?
Yeah, so we are currently with an organization called Free Burma Rangers. So they are based here in Thailand and then have humanitarian relief efforts primarily in Burma, of course, as the name says, but also in the Middle East, and then some work too here in Thailand as it comes up. But my role is in the aviation side of things. Free Burma Rangers we're just heading up, just developing an aviation component to the ministry. And so I've been given that task to see that develop. And so mostly at this point, we've been working on that about 3 years now. We have one small aircraft, a Cessna 172, here in Thailand in Chiang Mai. And so, we're just working to see what God will do with that. There's a huge need, of course, in Burma with really poor infrastructure and so many people isolated. And so our goal and our hope eventually is to have some working aviation side of what Free Burma Rangers already does. So much work inside Burma, but to have an aviation component added to it would just help so much to move people and supplies that much faster. And so, we've been working officially full-time here at FBR just in the official sense since October. But we've been back and forth the last several years for 6 months at a time, 2, 3, 6 months at a time each year for the last several years. And so just this October, we've made that jump to full-time with FBR. So, that's what we're doing. And
Awesome. Well, that's super cool. I think folks may be familiar with, the Free Burma Ranger story. Folks who are familiar with missions in general probably will recognize the Eubank family. I was fortunate enough to catch that film they had that was showing in theaters for a few days, a little while back. That was gripping, I got to say. It seems like to me it'd be a high intensity level, being around Dave Eubank. What is that right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, actually. I love the Free Burma Rangers for that fact that we're just kind of a big family. Everybody here that works here and volunteers that come in and out really quickly find that out that, yeah, there's a lot of work to do and there's tasks at hand, but really we just enjoy serving the Lord together. So that, yes, there are moments of like, wow, we got to get something done here. Let's get on this. But at the same time, there's a lot of joy in the work. And so like this week, we're here, we're down at the beach, we're trying to get some work done as we can, but then we play football every evening out on the beach, and stuff like that. So yeah,
cool.
Dave is a guy that's out on the front and doing a lot of crazy stuff sometimes, but still takes time to have fun and enjoy his family, the people around him. So yeah, we have a good time too.
Man, that's awesome. I know that family feeling can, even though there sometimes is a lot of intensity or you've got to get a lot done in a short amount of time, having that family context takes the edge off of it for sure,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds like you guys have. And that's a wonderful thing to have. I want to talk about your family as well. I know you're married and I believe you've got some kids, but I'd like to, as we're going in that direction, to have Billy kind of jump in here and tell us a little bit about how you guys met.
I had met them many years ago, briefly, when they were a lot younger, and myself. But just last year, they were home, as they do once a year. They come home to Southeast Texas, and his wife, Sarah, has a sister, Jennifer, and her husband, Michael, who we knew more. And then through all those links, we met and had lunch together. And I felt when we were having lunch that I needed to go see these guys in Alaska, because at the time they were doing some part-time in Alaska, which they split that time with Thailand. So off I went to Alaska and got to live with them a little bit for an extended weekend and see what the aviation world was all about. And it was awesome. I got to see Zack's heart and his family's heart, get to know them a lot better. And Zack tried to help me overcome my fear of flying in a little bitty plane flying around the mountains of Alaska. I still don't know how successful that was, but I appreciate the effort and got to see his skills up close and personal. So I just thought, I don't know if FX Missions could do something with Zack and his family. And I'm intrigued with the Free Burma Rangers connection. I really admire their heart and what Zack and his Free Burma Ranger family is doing. So that's kind of how that happened. It was just all quick and fast. And I think there's a connection there. And I'm really, really honored that I got to do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm glad you did.
Very
that was
cool.
A fun time.
For real. That very cool. Thanks, Billy, for jumping in with that. And I guess we've got to work on him on both sides. Zack on his fear of flying. I mean, you can hardly do international work if you won't get on a plane.
Yeah, it makes it difficult.
Well, that's how I know that I love the Lord, because I keep doing it over and over. It's like putting myself to punishment. So I'm like, God, I love you, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Well, so you're a pilot. You were working it for a while there in Alaska and splitting time between that and Thailand. Yeah, very cool, man. Now, I don't know anything about aviation, but I'm curious. Is there a rating you have that you fly up to certain size planes or certain distance? How does that work?
Yeah, so just a quick rundown of how there's a lot of ways to train to be a pilot. Just depends on how much money you got, kind of, and how the Lord leads you. But I did my training at LeTourneau University there in Longview, Texas, and it's a really good Christian school and emphasis on missions aviation. And so that's the program that I went through. It's a 4-year degree. And so leaving there, I had a commercial multi-engine, commercial single-engine license, and then commercial multi, commercial single, it's a commercial license, but you're still at that point, you're limited to, smaller 6 or 8, typically 6, 8, 10 passenger size plane. Anything beyond that requires a little bit of extra training and a type rating, actually, specific to whatever other aircraft you're going to fly. But that was a really good program for me. I left there also with my aircraft maintenance training, my A&P certificate. So that missions aviation program that LeTourneau has, really, you leave there pretty well-rounded, with the flying side, the maintenance side, and then also ministry, cross-cultural training and that kind of thing. So that's how I did it. And then the place there in Alaska you guys were referring to is Kingdom Air Corps is the name of that ministry. And Dwayne King is the director there, just an awesome guy. I love Dwayne so much and his heart to see young guys be developed in that skill of aviation, but also to turn them into really good missionaries too. Primarily is the focus there at Kingdom Air Corps, flight training, missionary pilot training. And so Dwayne was an old graduate of LeTourneau, actually. And so he comes back every year and does part of the missions conference every year at LeTourneau. And so that's how I met him. And Kingdom Air Corps, one of the reasons they exist is this transition from, you've got all these ratings and a few hours from whatever flight school or, like I did LeTourneau, however you do your training, but you don't quite have enough to be accepted by a missions aviation organization around the world like MAF or JARS or some of these other places. Mm-hmm. You need a little bit more experience. And so that's what Kingdom Air Corps is all about. So I went there and got my flight instructor training there at Kingdom Air Corps, and then ended up staying another 4 years there as an instructor, a flight instructor there for Kingdom Air Corps. And so that in turn was the connection here for Free Burma Rangers. Dwayne had met Dave there in Alaska, Dave Eubank, and that's a cool story. It's a story in and of itself, but eventually said, "Hey, Dave, could you ever use an airplane? We got some that we can donate or we can help train some guys or whatever." And so they ended up sending, now one of my best friends, Kit, came to Alaska. And so we met in the summer of 2014 and there at Kingdom Air Corps. And so that just started this whole relationship with Kit and with Free Burma Rangers for us. Ended up as Kingdom Air Corps did donate the plane that we have here in Thailand. And so I was, put in charge of that whole thing of making sure that plane got here. And it was just step by step for me. I know that's a long answer to your question, but from just that initial training there at LeTourneau and not really knowing, okay, God, I want to be a missionary pilot, but where and how, what does that look like, to, step by step from Alaska now to here in Thailand. And so, yeah, it's really cool how God leads you step by step. So, yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, very cool. Well, just kind of in that same vein of thought before we transition here, how does a plane get from Alaska to Thailand? I'm just trying to think of the path you'd take. Would you ship it? Would you fly it? And then there's Alaska and Thailand are physically closer than Thailand and maybe Texas. Am I right?
Well, actually, this plane, it was donated to Kingdom Air Corps, but it never left South Carolina.
Was that JARS or somebody?
No, it was just donated by a local guy there in that area that had, an older gentleman that wasn't going to fly much anymore. And so he donated it to Kingdom Air Corps. And then it just, for different reasons, never made the trip up to Alaska to be used for training up there. So that one was the one that we sent. And so we actually spent several months there in South Carolina in 2016 and did the engine overhaul. Thailand requires that the engine be overhauled within the previous 10 years if it's going to be imported. Anyway, there's a lot of rules. But
gotcha. Well, that's good. I'm happy for those rules every time I get on a plane.
Sure. Yeah. So about shipping it, you could fly it, of course, but that takes a lot of planning, a lot of making sure where you can get fuel along the way. And so just maybe takes longer, but it is easier to just ship it. And so we had a container, and you just take the wings off and take the tail apart, and it all goes in the container. You just secure all the pieces inside the container. And so we shipped the plane. That was the fall of 2016. And it got here in January 2017.
Wow. Very cool, man. Thanks for detailing that out a little bit. I'm familiar with a lot of the names that you familiar with. LeTourneau, of course, being from East Texas. I'm familiar with the university there. And a lot of the names that you mentioned, I've had some contact with. JARS. My first dirt strip landing was in a MAF plane. in rural East Africa a number of years ago. So I'm somewhat familiar. I lived in the Carolinas, just really pretty close to where JARS is, and was on their campus a handful of times. So have some familiarity with the kind of the dots you're connecting there. It's cool history. Cool process the Lord's brought you through. Now, I guess from those days training at LeTourneau, young man, all that, somewhere along the way, you've got your family started. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, well, Sarah and I met, not technically high school sweethearts, but we didn't go to the same school, but we did meet in the high school youth group at church, and we were around 15 years old. And we were just had our close-knit group of friends there in the youth group, and we're just together a lot. My parents were the worship pastors there, and her dad and mom were the associate pastors of the church. And so we were together a lot. And, guys are slow sometimes, and we just and finally, maybe an angel like hit me in the head with a rock, in the back of the church or something, like, hey, boy, Yeah, we started dating in my senior year. And Sarah's just a couple months older than me. And so she was already graduated and in beauty school at that point. But anyway, we started dating and got married at 20 years old. And so
congratulations.
I wouldn't change any of that for sure. Getting married that young, I think, well, of course, has been awesome. And then we had Gabriel when we were 21. So he was just a few months later, found out we were going to have our firstborn. So, wow. And then it wasn't until he was almost a year old when I started LeTourneau. So we were already married for a couple years and had Gabriel, and then all of these pieces started falling into place of, hey, I feel like God is leading us to do this other thing. And it was a big deal for us at that point because my parents had bought us a house out in the Kirbyville area, and we had a few acres of land, and just had this little setup, and it was really a sweet time in our life, and we didn't necessarily really want to give that up, but it was just so much. That's a long story too, but just so much that God had shown us and spoken to us in all these different ways that you just couldn't ignore it anymore. And so we sold that place and packed up and moved to LeTourneau and lived there on the LeTourneau campus those next 4 years, and had Gideon in 2010, about right in the middle of my schooling there at LeTourneau. And then when I graduated in 2012, Grady came along not that much longer, about a year later in 2013. So we have 3 boys who are 6, 9, and 12 now. And then Sarah and I just celebrated 13 years of marriage back in March. So,
oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Very cool. Well, you've got the G thing going there.
Yeah. I don't, we get ourselves tongue-tied sometimes. We just throw out all 3 names at once and just hope that it sticks with one of them,
Yeah, my mom always called roll when she was trying to get our attention. So I can well imagine with the first letter like it is there, that's got to happen.
Tongue-tied.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So break down for us a little bit about maybe your role. I realize the aviation piece at Free Burma Rangers is kind of new, and the concept, I think, of missions aviation has been developed over some time. So people who are familiar with missions would be somewhat familiar with that. I think we go back to stories, like Jim Elliott or whatever, there's a rich history there.
Yeah, for sure.
Certainly with that discipline. But what does that break down like? I mean, give us a rundown of what would be something normal in terms of one of your assignments for FBR. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, really for FBR, we're seeing it now in 2 different veins for us. We have the one airplane here now in Thailand registered under the organization. Finally, it's been 3 years worth of paperwork, to be honest. There's, if you're a pilot in the United States, don't neglect that freedom. You get out there and fly. I mean, it's a treasure to have the freedom that we do in the States as far as flight is concerned. It's really incredible. But yeah, there's a lot of red tape here in Thailand. And it's not things that we can't do. It just, the process is just long sometimes, just this arduous thing of this paper and that paper. So we've been in that mode of really trying to lay a good foundation. I just have this thought in my mind of longevity, for this program. And so really trying to lay a good foundation of registering everything correctly, making sure that we have everything lined out with this first, just a small aircraft, so that in the future, we have goals of a medevac service for northern Thailand. There's a lot of remote areas. We've talked to several hospitals and, other EMS services. There is a little bit of emergency flight service, but it's really hit and miss. Sometimes, they'll get a call and that nobody goes out. And so we want to make that available here in Thailand, not just, for Free Burma Rangers ministry, but, for the people of Thailand too, to be available for that, and any governmental, any way that we can help the government of Thailand too. We want to be able to do that. So, but yeah, this, like you said, it's very developmental, even though it's been running at this like 2 or 3 years to make sure that everything is set up, for a good, 50, 100 years, whatever. I just have this want to make sure that everything's good for that longevity. And then also, so that's our Thailand side of doing medevac and just FBR staff and other organizations. There's a lot of organizations in Chiang Mai area that could use, a flight service like that specifically for missions. And so we want to make that available as we get this thing moving, get it off the ground, so to speak. But then also within Burma, Free Burma Rangers runs a jungle school of medicine. It's a part clinic, an open operating medical clinic for the villagers of Karen State in Burma. And it's also a medical training facility that every year trains medics to go back to their village and help their own people back home. But we have so many patients, they're just coming to this clinic, and they have to, some of their stories are pretty incredible of how long it takes them to get to the clinic. And unfortunately, a lot of those folks that come, by the time, because it's such a hard process to get to the clinic, they wait. They're thinking, well, I'll get better, or it's not that bad, or whatever, because they're like, I just can't make that trip. And so by the time, a lot of people, by the time they get there, they've waited too long. Either the infection is too bad, or the cancer is too far gone, or whatever the case is. And so we want to be able to, doing that medevac service where we can have a way to get in and out of the villages, and they can just make a phone call, or they can get in touch with us somehow, and we can get those people to good medical care before it's too late for them. So that's our main push within the eastern side of Burma. Karen State primarily is where FBR works. So that's our goal, and like I said, we're just laying that foundation so we can have, a lot of good years of service here.
Absolutely, man. Well, trailblazing is slow and arduous work, right?
Right.
And really, in a way, that's what you guys are doing. I know FBR's been there quite a while, and they've been doing different kinds of work, developing different kinds of service and contributions. But
Sure.
with the air being new, if you think the DMV is slow, try to get a plane approved in a foreign country, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think some of this paperwork just mysteriously appears. I think we've even, some of the officials that we work with, I think, are even shocked at how they don't even know where it comes from. They're shocked at how long it takes sometimes. But like you said, it's trailblazing. And then too, we just trust God's timing in it as well, because, it gives us a chance to really feel it all out, to make sure that this is where he's leading, that this is what he wants us to do, versus just jumping in over our heads when we're not ready. So it is long, but we are thankful for the Lord's timing in it. So, yeah.
Sure. Well, yeah. And as you're making things ready, you're being made ready in the process for some of these things that are yet to be seen. It is interesting too, how any kind of process engaging the government in the States or elsewhere, these are the last sets of forms you'll have to do. Oh,
Right.
wait, there's one more form.
Yeah.
3 months after you submitted the last set.
Yeah.
Totally get it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, God's providence is at work. No question. He's moving us along, and at a pace that sometimes it's a trial all in its own, but he's doing his work. Appreciate you guys and your persistence there. Certainly want to come see you guys. We get Billy to agree to another transatlantic flight. And
Let's go.
let's go. All right. Yeah. I do think we'll hope to plan to be in that part of the world, soon, maybe within a calendar year or a little more, maybe mid-year next year. My friend Caleb, who was on the field there 8 years, I've talked to him recently as he's gotten back to the States. He's interested in returning for some short-term stuff, and I would love to plan something like that. Of course, that'll put us in Chiang Mai, get to come see you guys, and just get a close look. I got to say I'm intrigued by the Free Burma Rangers. And folks, if you haven't seen the movie, I mean, how can people get the content that was shown in theaters? Do you know?
It's available. It's available now. I just got an email from the Free Burma Rangers that you can sign up on their website, and they said now you can watch for free. So I think there's a link there.
Wow. We'll backlink in this blog, in the podcast to that. But that content, wow.
Yeah.
It was powerful. I already knew that I was, challenged by what you guys are doing because my friend Caleb knows Dave, and I think he met up with Dave just shortly after getting in country in Chiang Mai, nearly 10 years ago now. And he talked to me about him, and we, I got somewhat familiar. But everything I've seen from what you guys are doing has been a challenge to me. I got to say that in a good way. It's very unusual. In fact, I know of nothing else like it.
Yeah.
And you just think about so many ways to describe, I'm stupefied a little because, you got a former Army Ranger captain who's,
forces there, bro.
Yeah, right. Well, he was a captain, right, as well, right? Well, I guess he was a Green Beret. I don't know if he tells that.
He was a major in the Special Forces.
Major. Okay, well, sorry about saying captain. I'm not very much on military stuff, but I know there's a difference between those two. Anyway, let's just say the brother is squared away. Can we say that?
Yeah.
Can I get an amen on that?
Amen.
Well, he's doing his thing. I mean, he's incorporating what he was trained for by the military in a developing world context in a way that's saving life and protecting people. I'm not going to detail out all the whole film, which you should watch. We'll backlink. Please watch it. But I got to say that's good medicine for folks like me. And I would imagine it's pretty challenging to be up close as well. I know FBR is doing a lot of work in the Middle East. You guys are really, I didn't know that until fairly recently that you were doing work outside of Burma, which is Myanmar for those of you who don't make the connection. Where else are you working? I know the Middle East, but what else can you say about that, Zach, in terms of context where you guys are working?
Yeah, there was one mission before we linked up with FBR. They did one trip into Sudan during this, all the fighting, continual struggle there in Sudan. And so actually trained up a team as well, a Ranger team there to respond to conflict. And, that's the main goal of what FBR does is to train ethnic, whatever country that will have FBR come, is to train the national people of that country to respond to conflict when it happens, to have some sort of tools to, one of the main goals is to get the news out of what's happening, to be able to take, document what's happening, take the right pictures, put in a GPS coordinate of where this attack happened. Those sort of things that, people in a real remote place like that may not understand how to, document those things, or, the GPS location. And so that's a really big component of it. And so that, to answer your question though, so there, Sudan happened several years ago, Iraq and Syria, there's trips on and off into the Middle East. And then, yeah, for sure, primarily in Burma. There's just ongoing work continuing in Burma. Even now, there's fighting in different areas of Burma. And unfortunately, there was a mission plan to go and check that out from some of the team in Chiang Mai was going to go this month. But, the borders are even more locked down than they usually are. And so that didn't get to happen. But because FBR trains these, national guys, these local guys in their own home area, they're still able to do a lot of that work of really documenting what's happening. And, I really appreciate that component of what FBR does, because especially in Burma, the conflict there has been going on so long that it just it's not a blip on the radar anymore of international news. Sometimes, rarely, but a lot of that is because of what FBR does, that, hey, this is still happening. People are still suffering. There's still conflict going on. And so I really, of all that FBR does, that's one of the things that I appreciate the most, is that keeping that in front of people, that, hey, there's still people suffering in Burma, that hasn't been resolved. So yeah, Burma, wow. Thailand, Iraq, and Syria are your four primary places.
Man, I've got to say that part of what's challenging to me about FBR is they say, I hear the sound of mortars raining down. Let's get over there. That's pretty uncommon in our world, certainly the Western world. If you hear gunfire, you're trying to find something to get under, But I think the founder there, has been so conditioned to running to the sound of gunfire over, several decades that maybe he's instilled that as a part of his training, and you guys you respond. I didn't know about the documentation piece, but I know that's a huge piece that I learned in the film, as well as the medical care,
Right.
I mean, war produces casualties in the sense of wounded, as well as, in the sense of deceased, just helping oppressed people groups and people who are endangered, I don't know. What a ministry. What an objective.
Right.
Very, very cool. Super stoked about it. And I didn't know, but a lot of the international awareness that has been aired on all the primary news outlets in the last decade or so, maybe more, has, Dave, is credited in the articles. Or, your videographers and people who are gathering that content are credited with getting the news out. So thank you guys for doing that. In the developed world, I think a lot of times we lose track. We lose awareness, consciousness of what's going on in the far reaches of the world. And it's important that we don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So
that's for sure,
man.
Yeah. Yeah. And while
I've just got go ahead. Sorry.
Insert this about the movie. If you go to fbrmovie.com, that's got all those. There's several options of how you can purchase it or, watch it, stream it, any of that. So fbrmovie.com is where you can find the show.
Excellent. Well, we'll backlink that in the broadcast. Let me ask you I could go 1,000 directions and gotta, it'd always be valuable time spent, I know, but just now I'm running out of time. Thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it. Let's do connect, and maybe we can grab some content when we're on the ground over there, get some of you guys to join us for some, media we can gather locally there. If someone wanted to reach out to you or to your family, or maybe they want to know more about missions aviation kind of opportunities, or, learning how to get tracking in that direction, or anybody want to make contact with you, how would they reach you?
Yeah. So, our family ministry is called Loving Life Missions. You can find that online, lovinglifemissions.org, and that's got any contact info that you would need, and some, just a little bit of our story or a way to support us as a family if somebody wanted to do that. So that's probably the easiest way. Yeah.
Okay. Lovinglifemissions.org, just like it sounds, plural, missions.org. Yep. And Very cool. Well, Zack, thank you again for being with us. Billy, thank you also for being here and for introducing Zack.
Yes.
Happy to get a chance to talk here. We look forward to catching up in a face-to-face. Thank you for your efforts for the gospel, and for your you guys persisting. We're from the same patch of woods almost there in Southeast Texas. So
yeah,
I'm always encouraged by folks who step out from behind the pine curtain and get something done for the gospel. Amen.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Well, please give our greetings to your family there, and we look forward to seeing you guys. We'll continue to link up for some details on that. Hopefully, we'll see you in Texas again at some point as downrange. And thanks again for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good. Thanks again, Billy.
Later, guys.
All right. I am Scott McClelland with your FX Missions From the Forefront podcast. We'll backlink these information pieces in the show notes. And please do check out lovinglifemissions.org as well as fbrmovie.org. Until next time, have a good one.
You've been listening to From the Forefront, hosted by FX Missions' Scott McClelland. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like more information on today's guest, please go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/FXMissions. Please rate our show on iTunes or your favorite podcast provider. If you know someone who should be a guest on our podcast, we're currently reviewing candidates for upcoming episodes. Please submit their name, affiliation, and an essay of why their story needs to be told to info@fxmissions.com. And of course, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website at fxmissions.com. From Scott McClelland and the whole team here at FX Missions, thanks for listening. Till next time, have a great day.